welcome. You and I have a problem this week. Not knowing what this week is. This week is actually National ED Awareness Week. Did you know? I hope you didn't, because then it makes me feel less bad. But I realized this by seeing it from a post made by the South African Depression and Anxiety Group on Facebook. And I'm like, we haven't spoken about this. So I started looking into articles that we can go through together to help us understand EDs so much better. While looking for articles for us to go through, I found that in South Africa, there's hardly any conversation around it or the articles around it. And I found this one that I wanted us to start with. Okay? Yeah, you're fine. I found this one that I wanted us to start with, and it is actually from Jamaica Hospital Medical Center. Okay, so it should be a Jamaican article, and obviously not South African, but I do feel like it helps us understand EDs a lot better. I found it to be like really, juicy and has a lot of things going on. This article was posted on the 25th of Feb 2026, so this year, by Patrick Hercules. Let's get right into it. National Eating. You know what? Like, I don't know what's going to happen with this video, because I feel like I'm going to say ED and then I'm going to forget to say ED and then YouTube might fight me. So anyway, the abbreviation here is NEDAW. NEDAW. National ED Awareness Week. So NEDAW. So anytime you hear me say NEDAW or NEDA is National Eating DA. Yo, please bear with me. I'm also baby here in the YouTube streets and I'm just trying to make it. National ED Awareness Week, NEDAW, takes place February 23rd to March 1st, and we are currently in that week. Wait, today's the last day of Feb. Okay. NEDAW raises awareness about EDs, challenges stigma, and provides hope and support to all who have been impacted by these conditions. EDs are serious mental health conditions that can cause unhealthy relationships with how a person thinks about food, eating, weight, and how they see themselves. If eating disorders aren't treated effectively, they can become long-term problems and can be fatal in some cases, which is why it's very important for us to be speaking about this, because it's a part of mental illnesses that needs to be spoken about more, because there is a chance that we could be dealing with people that are struggling, and we might be responding in a really horrible way that makes things worse instead of allowing this person to go through recovery. EDs are common. According to the NEDA, National ED Association, studies show that 28.8 million people in the US will have an ED in their lifetime. That is crazy. But I believe it. It makes sense, because I feel like a lot of mental illnesses sort of overlap. If you have depression, there's a chance you get, anxiety at some point. If you have anxiety, there's a part you might end up in an ED. If you they tend to just overlap into each other. There are several types of EDs. They include anorexia nervosa, which restricts food and caloric intake and creates a fear of gaining weight and a distorted self-image. Bulimia nervosa causes a person to binge or eat large amounts of food in a short amount of time, or believe that the food intake was large, which is followed by purging the food by vomiting or with the use of laxatives or excessive exercise. Which I think then becomes a tough one, because we don't associate exercise with anything being wrong, whereas excessive exercise could be a symptom of bulimia. How crazy? I know I didn't know that, and I know you didn't know that too. That's why we're here. That's why we're having this conversation. Avoidant restrictive food intake disorder, that's ARFID, limits the amount or type of food eaten for reasons unrelated to a distorted self-image or an attempt to lose weight. Wow, okay. Binge eating disorder causes a person to eat or think There is a large amount of food in a short time, followed by feelings of shame, regret, guilt, or depression. Pica, P-I-C-A, causes a person to compulsively swallow non-food items such as chalk, dirt, or paint. Guys, what about people that are addicted to eating sand? You know that very light brownish sand that you purchase. What about, does that fall under pica? I hope I'm even pronouncing it properly. Rumination disorder causes undigested food to return to a person's mouth after swallowing it. Food is then rechewed, re-swallowed, or spit out. I hope we now understand these different disorders. That's a lot. That's crazy and sad and like wow. Okay, it may be difficult to spot an ED in a loved one, as they can often mimic some dietary or lifestyle changes, which is quite important. These are the things that go under the radar because you're just thinking this person just wants to add exercise onto their routine, hence it's excessive, and then it could actually be an ED. Or, okay, anyway, what's more, you may not be able to tell if someone is suffering from an ED by looking at them. All these mental illnesses, it's very important for us to take all other things into consideration, because it's almost impossible to tell from looking at someone that you anxiety disorder this one, you know. And that's the same thing with an ED. EDs have several signs and symptoms, including mood swings, fatigue, fainting or dizziness, thinning hair or hair loss, which makes sense because, okay, hair, I didn't think about it as hair, but I know that your nails can be brittle depending on the diets that you're on, and it can show on your nails if your body's not healthy or if it's missing some things. But hair and nails are basically the same thing. Nails are compressed hair, so the same way your nails would react is just about the same way your hair would react, so that makes sense. Okay, unexplained weight loss changes or drastic weight loss, unusual sweating or hot flashes. Wow. Behavioral symptoms of EDs include restrictive eating, eating a lot of food in a short amount of time, avoiding certain foods, forced vomiting after meals or misuse of laxatives, compulsive exercising after meals, frequent bathroom breaks after eating, withdrawing from friends or social activities, hiding food or throwing it away, food rituals such as chewing food longer than necessary or eating in secret. This is crazy because you generally tend to see one of these things in people that you live with. Like, even if it's not all the time, but at a certain time, someone you live with would probably be avoiding certain foods. Or, you know, sometimes even with kids or teens as well, you'll see like one of these things. But it's important to look into all of them so that you can stop being like, oh no, this is we're going into a problematic territory right now. It's not just they prefer eating in their bedroom. No, it might actually be eating in secret, which may be something else. If a person has an ED, they may experience several feelings. Okay, so I think these are things that we might need to consider maybe remembering so that we can pick it out from conversations with the next person that we might be thinking has an ED problem. Food is their enemy, or it can harm them. They did something wrong or shameful after they ate food. They aren't the correct weight or body size. They are perceived negatively by other people. They are failing if they don't meet certain food or weight requirements. What and how they eat is the only thing they can control in their life. They don't want to spend time with others due to the fear of being judged. Oh, this is sad, man. Every time you have to eat, you're already freaking out because you feel like it can harm you, or you feel like you did something wrong every time you're done eating. And that's such a sad place to be in. And I can imagine a child having this problem and saying some of these things out loud in an African household. with adults that might not be open-minded, or as I don't know. Yeah, I think open-minded might just be the right way of putting it, because then it would be like, no, just finish your food. What's your problem? Since when do you think this is an issue? There isn't an exact known cause for EDs. However, research has suggested that several factors can lead to a person developing an ED, including genetics. Okay, that sounds like what we know about depression, that it can be passed on from generation to generation. Okay, brain biology, right. Underlying mental health conditions, makes sense. We did touch on that, Tangere. Cultural and societal and social ideals. Wow, that makes sense, because while I was reading the previous things, I was thinking, but these are all the things that are happening in the modeling industry. I've been watching one piece at a time because I'm horrible at watching documentaries or series or whatever. I prefer a movie. But recently I've been watching the Tyra show one. What is it? Tyra, I forgot. But it's on Netflix at the moment, and it's a documentary about Tyra's Next Top Model show. And how you can see there, it was almost you have to have an ED. And without them saying it that way, but also when you listen to the girls, some of them, you just like, oh no, this was a whole ED that was being supported. That's upsetting. EDs can be developed by anyone at any age. I think that's the most important part to hear. Anyone at any age. Because I think with mental illnesses, with a lot of illnesses, we like to try to group them up in specific spaces. And I think this is a word to myself, my goodness, because my mom-in-law telling me that she is thinking, and my husband. Yeah, I think my husband's the one that got her to understand why he was thinking this way. That my issue with my bones, which has made me to not be able to work for a bit, could be early onset arthritis. And well, it just, the symptoms seems like it, right? And my first conversation to anybody that says that to me, which is like literally these two people, has been like, but I'm too young for that. I'm too young to be taking medication for arthritis, guys. But my body really is falling apart. So at some point, I'm going to have to do that, right? But important to stop grouping illnesses to be under a certain age or a certain type of race or a certain, anything. Stop grouping these things. It can happen to anyone at any age, but are most common among adolescents and teenagers, which makes sense. There's so much chemically happening in their brains as an adolescent or a teenager that they are basically susceptible to a lot of mental health related issues that are difficult to pick up on and difficult to manage. And what a tough season. There was a video that I was watching on YouTube today, Ansi something, the YouTuber is Ansi whoever, and she was saying that she found that apparently teenagers have a very higher rate of having mental illnesses or mental health problems than compared to adults. And to her, she was like, it makes sense, because when you are a young adult, you generally realize that you have a lot of control over your life compared to when you are much younger, where you worry about not having enough control over your life. A lot of things are decided for you by the adults in your life, and it can feel quite powerless to not be able to have that power in your own hands about your own life. And that makes sense to me, because I've always thought that every time people speak about how high school was the best time for them, I'm always just like, I love being an adult compared to being a teenager. I do not want the life being under 21. Like, oh no, it's so much better being at this age. I really do feel like a lot of things I'm able to be like, okay, I didn't get it together, I need to get it together. I can control this. It's okay that I can't control that, compared to being a teenager. A person may be at increased risk of developing an ED if they have a history of EDs or other mental health conditions in their biological family, okay, have an underlying mental health condition such as anxiety, depression, or obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, right, experienced a physical, emotional, or sexual trauma. I think that makes sense. Not that that's how it should be, but it makes sense that certain types of trauma could lead to, okay, participate in activities where their weight or body size is a factor, such as swimming, gymnastics, or wrestling. I thought they were going to say modeling because over there. I've gone through a major change, such as starting a new school, a job, a divorce, or a move. That's something else, because I remember when my husband and I moved to where we are residing now, I was happy, ecstatic, but also mentally really struggling. And my husband's like, it's going to take you about a month for you to move, to fully feel like you've moved. About a month, because moving is as mentally challenging as a divorce, or can be as mentally challenging as a divorce. And I think he was able to say is to me because he could see how badly it was affecting me. And I'm just like, I'm not having a problem. I prefer things this way, but I am struggling to adjust. Something is not right. And he's just like, no, it's that big of a difference. So give yourself some time. We're still on a person may be at increased risk of developing an ED if they have type 1 diabetes. That's something else. Okay, studies have found that up to 25% of women with type 1 diabetes develop an ED. Crazy. Has a driven personality or is a perfectionist. That almost goes in line with the OCD part. Treatments for EDs can vary by type, but they can include psychotherapy, such as cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. I've heard a lot about CBT, and I don't know if I should be trying it, or I want to do more research about it to understand it better. Medications such as antidepressants, antipsychotics, or other medications. Okay, nutrition counseling from a registered dietitian. Important when it comes from a registered dietitian, because it might be it's a sensitive situation, and it's important that you go through the right people, especially that are going to be having conversations with you about what you're going to be eating. Alright, the last part of this article says, if you or a loved one is experiencing symptoms of an ED and needs the assistance and support of a mental health professional, Jamaica Hospital Medical Center, please call over here and schedule an appointment. But we are in South Africa, and we have the South African Depression and Anxiety line, which I think, if I remember properly, is 0800 567 567. Yep, I know that's the right one. I've said it so many times that I actually remember it off by heart now. So, okay, well, thank you so much for going through this article with me. I'd love to know what you are thinking down in the comments, and I will see you in the next one.